Welcome to Inside Voice, your behind the scenes take on the $150 billion home care industry. Here, it's not about the loudest voices or even polished headlines. It's about real stories, real challenges, and real insights from those shaping care every day. Join us as we cut through the noise, explore trends, and uncover what it takes to truly make a difference of the lives of those we care about. Inside Voice. Today, I'm joined by someone I've known and respected since the very early days of my home care journey back in 2016 in Palm Beach, Florida. Wadney has navigated some of the most intense roles in healthcare. When we think of those roles, hospice social worker, a discharge planner at skilled nursing facilities, prominent places, and really the hub of senior care, which is South Florida. What I've always personally admired about Wadney is her balance. She's incredibly personal, but yet professional, always keeping the patient's outcome her North Star. My goal for today is to humanize this role that Wadney, you held for so many years as the discharge planner and as that hospice social worker. We often in the home care field as an owner operator treat individuals like you as like a caricature. We don't really understand that you're real people. You have personalities, you have likes, and you're facing real pressures. And so, Wadney, I'm super excited to have you here today to color in what the day-to-day looks like for individuals in that role and some of the maybe do's and don'ts of the industry to help show us as marketers and owner operators what it takes to ultimately succeed in that relationship development with those key points of contact. So, Wadney, before we begin on the clinical side of things and hearing about your experience and diving into some of these questions that I'm really excited to talk to you about, tell me a little bit about yourself. What would be something that surprises me, whether it be a hobby, music, something I want to get from your professional bio?
Something that is outside my professional life is I enjoy doing meaningful things for my family and the community. I'm big on planning small gathering activities, mommy and me, to bring people together. It's something that I genuinely love. And on a personal note, my go-to music is gospel, R&B, just to keep me motivated and grounded, and also to have reset, reset
Yeah. What
every day.
what's your like what's the band, the gospel band or artist that you like to listen to the most?
It all depends what's going on. If I wanna wake up, Kirk Franklin,
Heck
CC Williams,
yeah.
it just all depends on what.
Let's go. I love a little Kirk Franklin. Yes, that's good. All
Yes.
right. So if you will, give us a little brief bio of kind of like your career journey in healthcare in the industry. What are some of the positions that you've held?
I've been a social worker for over 10 years now. I did hospice social work, discharge planning, hospital, rehab, discharge planning. I also did therapy as well for 55 and older, and I also did children as well. So I have a background on every little aspect of social work. Um, and I love my main goal is that I'm Creole speaking, so sometime when I have a Creole speaking client, it's easier to navigate the information to them to get them the proper help that they need.
It's awesome. Bonnie, I remember, I think we met, I was thinking about it today. I think I did a social worker luncheon for, it was called Vitas Hospice, if you remember that. I think you were a Vitas social worker back then. I don't think you were in our territory, but then you relocated into my territory, which was Lake Worth, Florida. And I remember running into you now as the discharge planner, and that's really where our, I think, relationship began. And we kind of like were looking at each other like, you look familiar. And then we kind of put the pieces together that we actually met during that luncheon a while back. And so I'm looking forward to really diving into in home care. Like those are two really big uh, referral sources that we need to refer to as home care agencies a lot of the time and work with. And so understanding how that relationship works is really what I'm looking forward to dive in today. So really focusing in on your experience as a discharge planner at that skilled nursing facility, and your experience as a hospice social worker. And so, as a discharge planner, you're hit with like really every strategy in the book because for us, it's one of our top referral sources. So you're hit with a lot of different strategies to get your attention. In your experience, what is the most effective way a home care agency or provider has done to actually land and schedule that appointment with you?
I think the first thing is like, usually the social workers have a lot of clients at the same time. So I think popping in is like really horrible, right? Because you could be in the middle of something. So you kind of want, my experience, you kind of want to give the home care the full attention that they need, rather it's 15, 30 minutes. So for me to get to know the agency that I want to work with, pan flips that explain the agency, the cost, what do they provide, how many hours. So all the information, pins, things that I need. And also if they can get somebody in the same day too. Because sometimes
Hmm.
in the middle of us meeting, I might have a discharge and can the aide come and pick up the client and bring them home? Like there's so much into it. So I think the first time for me schedule is for you to schedule an appointment. So then we can have your time, like rather it's 30 minutes, 15 minutes. That's like my best answer.
Yeah, so I feel like that's interesting because for us as marketers, a lot of the time we're told like just go there and try to walk in and catch her at a good time. And you're saying, listen, it's actually not the best route. What is your usual perception of somebody who's just swinging by and trying to get a face to face with you? Is it like, hey, respect my time a little more and schedule something?
Right, because you can come pop up, but I already have the clients at the where I'm at, rather I'm at a hospital or nursing, that I said, okay, for example, I told a client to come to my office. I'm going to help them with Social Security or veteran benefits at 1 o'clock. You show up at 1 o'clock. I cannot take you. I have to take the
Hmm.
client. So it makes sense to schedule. Popping by, if you're just, I don't know, popping by to drop off some coffee, I guess is fine. But if you want me to get to know your agency, I feel like you need to schedule a time instead of popping by.
And that's as simple as picking up the phone, asking for the discharge planner, leaving a voicemail if he can't get a hold of you, and just being consistent in that phone call. Eventually, you're going to be like, "Oh yes, Ethan's called, left a couple voicemails. Let me call him back and schedule a time for him to swing by." Am I right by that assumption?
Yes, yes. I think before when you and Seth used to stop by, you guys always call. I always know in advance when you guys are coming, so I already know the time that you guys are coming. So you guys always schedule when you're coming by. So it makes it easier. And if you want to bring extra goodies for the nurses, because sometimes the overnight nurses, they might need somebody, they might call an agency and say, hey, we need you right now. So sometimes that happens, not all the time,
Hmm.
where the nurses can call somebody in and say, "Hey, I need somebody to come sit with this client," and the client's um, caregivers in New York, and they just said, "Call somebody." So
Yeah.
then, that can be worked as far as the logistic of it. So it makes sense to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And I think that's the goal is when you start to develop a relationship, you want that initial point of contact to be one that you understand. I respect your time. I respect your day to day. I would just love the opportunity to start developing that relationship. And so that looks like picking up the phone, making the calls, and scheduling an appointment. Discharge planners, they're going to allow you to schedule that appointment if you make the necessary steps of picking up the phone and calling. What are some of the absolute do's and don'ts? Like, what is something a marketer has done that has given them instant credibility in your eyes? You've mentioned a couple things like how quickly can you get somebody out here? Do you have a roster of highly qualified and vetted aides? I don't want to put words in your mouth though, but what is something that you've seen that's immediately given you the credibility you need to refer earlier on than maybe most agencies?
I think maybe the cost sometimes the cost is not a problem, right? So it all depending what clientele are we, which part of the county the client lives in, right? Sometimes the cost is not a problem. I think my other thing is some agencies you have to do a 2-hour minimum. Some agencies do an hour minimum. Um, some agencies do meet and greet, like you get to meet three of the aides prior to them hiring which one they want. So I do like that tactic. I don't know, I don't remember which agency that did that, but they come, you meet like 3 clients. Out of the 3, my client picked which one she likes, and then that's the one that takes her home and then continues the plan of care. So, I like that idea. That was a big check mark for me.
Hmm.
Another one is, in the midst of me, getting to know your agency, can you provide somebody for me today at 6 o'clock?
Right.
You know, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It's okay because sometimes it takes a long time to find an aide.
Hmm.
Also an aide that drives. That's a plus. Some of them that don't drive, some of
Yeah.
them they take Ubers to the client's house, but sometimes the client wants to go outside to the beach and sit down, because these are,
Right.
you know, older clients.
How does the appearance of the brand and the way the marketers communicate the message and the confidence of their delivery affect the way you perceive a home care agency? Or do those things not matter?
Not so much. It doesn't matter. Not so much. Maybe, maybe the appearance of how the person comes to me, if that makes sense. Because then that's your brand of the agency, right? So is your all your aides gonna come dressed like how you just came to me? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of there's a little bit of standard that you look for because you want to make sure that's gonna be the proper aid for that client. If you're coming with, holes and your shirt is when you're trying to tell me you have an agency, then I'm looking at you like, is all your aides gonna come with, I don't know, open toe shoes and looking?
Yeah, there's a standard you're looking for. Let's talk about some of the gifts that you've seen. You've probably seen everything from pens to catered lunches and everything in between. The first visit, what's too much? What's not enough? What are the things, in your opinion, a marketer or agency owner should bring by when they're introducing themselves to you?
Well, the ethic of social worker, we're not supposed to accept anything, right? I seen all sorts of stuff, chocolate covered chocolates, flowers. I mean, it's just you could name it, like the stuff that I see and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a lot." But I understand because you want to be able to say, "Okay, I want you to pick my agency." So I just go to the bare minimum, cup of coffee, find out refresher, a donut. Sometimes um the when you make the appointment, they'll say, "Okay, since it's at 12:30, do you want me to bring you some lunch?" I guess that's fine. You go to Panera Bread, a sandwich, a cup of soup, and we're eating. As you're telling me about your agency, kill two birds at one stone. So I guess that's okay. Pens, to write the notepads. I can write stuff to the clients. Pens, notepads, glasses cleaner, you name it. Everything, but technically, as a social worker, you're not supposed to accept gifts. So,
No, that's good. And one of the things that I always did is instead of lavishing gifts on the social worker, which makes them uncomfortable to a degree, um, partner with the facility that they work in. So, like, you guys have events all the time for your residents. You have, for especially the long-term nursing side, help the facility put on those events, sponsor those things. That's your way if you're looking to want to, quote unquote, which you're not doing, but buy things, help them support those events by sponsoring, because that shows that you're trying to help their community grow in any way possible. And that would be one way if owners are really trying to do those type of things, that they could do it and still be respectful of the guidelines.
oh, I want to add to that. For the long term side, So I would partner with the activities person because the activities person do the calendar for the whole entire month. So the activities person knows specifically what activity is going to happen what day and what can you help with sponsoring. So that's another way of helping as well. Yeah.
Right. And you as a discharge planner, you look at that and you like to see that type of engagement from a provider, right? Because if you see them helping out with activities, helping putting on events, you're looking at me, Ethan, with Preferred Care at Home, maybe not just as another marketer vendor, but as a partner and not only helping your patients transition home, but also helping keep your census and your activity level high. Would that be correct by saying that?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So what are some traits and maybe proof points that you look for in a home care agency before you feel comfortable referring them to your patients? And I think this is important because one of the things I always looked at was if I got a referral from you, Wadney, that's a big deal because that's like an extension of yourself. Like, hey, I'm gonna say Ethan is here's options, but who I'm comfortable with for this thing, you should really consider Ethan. That's a big deal. And I think that's rightfully so, requires to be earned, not just given. What are some of those proof points you look for in a home care agency before you're willing to give that stamp of approval?
I think when I call if I'm missing like if I'm when I'm calling and it's taking a long time to for me to get back to you or you get back to me and then the clients sometimes the clients are in my office and I'm calling and saying, "Okay, hey, this is the time they're going to get discharged." So sometimes I do like the customer service of the response time of the
Mm,
agency. And then another part of the agency is as far as the client gets to choose as far as the aids go as well.
yeah.
But technically, yes, we give the client 3 choices to pick from, but as a discharged social worker, we already have the agencies on rotation, if you know what
Hmm.
I mean.
Sure.
Or sometimes sometimes when they're like, okay, hey, you're giving this agency more than the other agencies, then I'm like, okay, well, the reason why is because this agency is not picking up. This agency, they sent the clients calling me from their house and saying the aid is late. So I had to pick somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah, and how many visits do you think a marketer needs to make before you feel comfortable giving them that referral? It sounded like you said if the pitch is good enough, maybe on the first visit, but on average, what would you see? Would you like to see them swing by, connect with you, see if they could help before you're going to pass on that referral?
I think consistency, maybe 2 times. One time is the meet and greet. If it's an emergency, yes, we can do it on the first try. The second time, you're pitching, okay, and then the third time, you should be able to, referral.
That's
I should
good.
you should be able to get a referral.
That I think that's super insightful. When I look into it, I'll never forget, I would, like, walk into your office, Wadney, and there'd be a wall of brochures of my competitors, a complete wall of it, right? I wonder to myself, out of that
Over 30.
wall, how many showed up the one time and then never came back? And I would like to know the answer to that question.
Ooh, out of 30? Hmm, that never came back, I'm gonna say 15. They only showed up
Yeah,
one time and didn't come back. Sometimes they just show up the first time expecting a client I'm supposed to call them, but they don't even okay, if you can't stop by, at least do a follow-up call and say, "Hey, we met last week on the 20th, just wanted to see a feedback or something." They don't call at all. I'm not going to refer. I
hmm,
need you to be consistent. I don't need a in and out home care. I need you to be consistent.
that's right. That's right. That's what we preach. And I always say this when you walk into a room and you see the wall brochures, roughly 80% are not consistently following up on a weekly to biweekly basis. So you can take 80% of those brochures and you can dump them in the trash and know there's only a handful of them that are putting the necessary effort to develop key relationships, that are engaging into that community, sponsoring events, doing karaoke night for the long term. They're not doing those things. They swing by, they bring you a donut, and they drop off their brochures, and that's the last you hear of them. That's what most of these marketers do. And so you want to move from just being a vendor to a partner, with an individual like Wadney at a skilled nursing facility, it takes consistency and it takes engagement of the facility. I think that's a really good way of putting it. I think that's insightful. Um, so for those building a presence, we're talking about follow-ups. What do you think is a good cadence for, let's say, a skilled nursing facility that you worked at, where you're making those necessary touch points, but you don't feel too intrusive? What would be, is it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? What is your average cadence that you would like to see?
I mean, if you can't make it every week, it's okay to come every 2 weeks. That's fine. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had a I had a for example, I had a agency. She would bring orchids. I don't know if it's you guys, but anyways, she would bring orchids every time.
Mm.
Orchids. That was her signature. Like, even though if I'm in a meeting and she stops by, she leaves the orchids.
Hmm.
Like,
And you
and
knew
I'm
it
like,
was her.
okay, she stopped by. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, I already knew it's her. She just put it right on my desk. I knew it's her. Like, it's not every week, every 2 weeks. It's just whenever you can stop by just to make sure, like, you're being consistent and you're still part of my rotation. Because if you're not stopping by, I'm gonna lose track of the rotation.
That's right. And one of the things that I would like to help owners and operators and marketers help create that cadence is on that first visit. That's a question you should ask: is how often would you like to see me come back? Because you'll give an answer bi-weekly. That's the answer you would give. One of the things, some of the things that people should know is there's something called utilization review meetings that skilled nursing facilities hold, as well as care plan meetings. Could you go and help us differentiate what those two meetings are, and why would you think it's important for us as a marketer to know what those meetings are?
Okay, so the care plan meetings is basically the care of the client, right? So it reports of the physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, if they're receiving speech, and also what the aid. The aid is also present sometimes in the care plan meetings to say how the client's doing. She's getting up, brushing her teeth. I can only help her on one side, like give more in depth because she's with the client for 5, 8 hours, whatever the contract is. So sometimes the aides do attend the care plan meetings. The utilization meeting is basically, maybe the marketers can attend that. It's basically saying what do you see for the future? What's the discharge planning? Also in the care plan meeting too. So they're
Mm-hmm.
two of the same but different in some ways because the social workers attend both, but necessarily the caregivers do not attend both, only one.
Sure. And it's my understanding that these utilization review meetings are held weekly. Is that correct?
Yes, they are held weekly.
And so I think it's just completely advantageous for a marketer to ask the question, when is a utilization meeting being held? Because wouldn't it be smart for me to swing by after one of those meetings, after one that you just got out, considering some of the visits or discharges that you're ultimately going to have to make, and then boom, here's Ethan.
That would be smart to schedule a time because that's when we know how many discharges we have that upcoming weeks, or if they might have a discharge that same day.
Yeah. What I used to do is I used to actually sponsor those utilization review meetings and present about for 5 minutes before, because the whole team would be there, and then I would leave. Um, but my cadence would be, knowing that those are, let's say, Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. My cadence would be swinging by Tuesday at about 3:30, knowing you were getting out of that utilization review meeting and seeing if there's anybody being discharged that I could help, with, put together resources for, right? And so that was like kind of my cadence of try to figure out with a skilled nursing facility. I would never sit through that meeting.
The care plan meetings, yes, the
Hmm.
marketer and the aide does attend because they're talking about your specific clients. You guys already have all that information with the file, so that's okay. You guys can attend. And the sometimes the family members are out of state, so they would like it if you guys attend. So that's will be okay. But yeah, before and after that, but after would be the key point because that's when we know exactly how many clients are being discharged that same week, couple months. Like, yeah, we know everything.
Fantastic. I think that's super helpful for the listeners. Let's uh let's kind of transition here from your experience as a discharge planner, which really do appreciate you kind of giving all this insight. And now let's go to the hat that you wore for a while as a hospice social worker. Um, so transitioning to your time to hospice, what is the primary mission of the social worker in that setting, a part of a hospice team?
As a social worker in the hospice setting, we provide emotional support. Not only emotional support, added on to I can be with a client for an hour. We can talk about final arrangements. We can talk about what do they want to see, what do they want to work on in the meantime, what's their wishes. So there's more in depth with hospice, but also the hospice also makes referrals to music therapy, massage therapy, and aids. Now, the aid portion, I'll let Ethan answer ask the questions.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the question would be, for a social worker, typically, when is the time where they start discussing non-medical home care options for the family, if that is one of the roles that the hospice social worker does?
We have a hospice aid, but they only allowed to do inside the home. So they would need a home health aide to go outside of the home. So that's when it would be beneficial to depending on depending on how the person is doing. So some of them are bed bound, sometimes they're wheelchair bound, sometimes they can walk, sometimes it all depends on the client.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of people get confused. So that when we talk about the hospice has CNAs and aides that can help, what capacity do hospice aides assist clients in their home? So like what do they do and where does it end and where is the time where maybe home care is needed because it's not providing enough? I know there's something called critical care, right? Where they hospice does provide 24/7 care. Can we talk a little bit about that? And then let's talk about maybe those intermittent visits to help with certain ADLs that even hospice will offer as well.
Okay, let's start with the CC care, critical care. So they have somebody there. It's basically essentially like it's if sometimes they might be a RN, sometimes depending on the client, but usually there's an aide there 24 hours. So the person's there 12-hour shifts. The one person comes for 12 hours, the second person comes for 12 hours, so on and so forth. So they help with all ADLs, medication, reminder, anything that the client needs. So when if the person is not in CC care, um if the person is not in CC care, where would they need home health? Because hospice only provides 1 to 2 hours, and they only help with bathing, brushing teeth, light meals, and then they're out. Versus home care, they can spend 5 to 10 hours and help with anything that the client needs. Well, depending on their package.
That 1 to 2 hours, is that daily or is that usually only a handful of times throughout the week?
It 2 times a week, 3 times a week. It's not every single day.
Yeah. So I'm sure as a hospice social worker, you've seen a family like, listen, because your loved one's on hospice doesn't mean your life gets to also be on pause. And so we have somebody who's not on critical care, that is only getting maybe 2 to 3 times a week, someone coming in. The need for the referral for home care because Nancy can't be left alone in this state. That referral and that phone call probably usually comes from you. The nurse, I'm assuming, has a conversation. Wadney, I think we need to recommend a home care option, at least let the family know of some options. Can you walk me through kind of how that route usually happens and you used to refer home care as a hospice social worker in the past?
Okay, so how it happens is the admission nurse see the need that patient can't be home alone or patient is feeling depressed also. So sometimes it's more companion and not really needing help around the home. Because sometimes they just want somebody to talk to because their loved ones are out of town.
Sure.
So how it initially helps is that I call the caregivers, wherever state that they're in. I initiate the conversation about mom, dad needing this extra time, and they requested this extra time, and this is what they need. Usually the caregivers like whatever they need, just pick one. And then I'm gonna let them know that the marketing person of the home health is gonna call you because they need some paperwork consent form to be filled out. So you will get a phone call, and also they need a credit card on file, what have you. And that's why in the beginning of this podcast, we talked about the initial meeting with the home health agency. So from there, that's when I talk about their process. What do they need? And I already know what they need because we have that consistent relationship. So then after I call them, they know that the marketing person is going to call. Then we schedule for them to come the days that the aide don't come. That's how we usually do it. So if that client has
Mm.
2 times a week, so then so for the 3 days, or if they want 7 days, then we fill in that gap for them, if that makes sense. So the same day the hospice person comes, maybe she won't have an aide there, but the next day have
Sure.
the aide come in. Or if they want the hospice aide to come in the morning and then at night to have somebody, which whatever the client feels is comfortable for them. So that's how my process of hiring a home health aide
Yeah.
for the client.
Yeah. And I know as a social worker, you're the one who's dealing with putting together, making sure the family has the resources. But putting price aside, uh, let's just say this was free. How often would you see the need for additional home care assistance for clients?
And has this maybe like 45%,
Yeah.
maybe
So
45%.
45 to 50% roughly of all individuals could benefit from some type of home care service that are on hospice, is what you saw.
Yeah, correct, correct. Because sometimes just because you're on hospice doesn't mean like you're bed bound.
Sure.
There's some people that are on hospice that are still maneuvering, but they still have that, stage 4, and they
Terminal.
still
Yeah.
might need a little help. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't sometimes I feel like some people think hospice, oh my God, it's end of life. Sometimes it's not end of life. Sometimes they're still busy. They have activities. Sometimes they go to swimming pool, and they need a caregiver to drive them there, and the caregiver take their keys because they can't drive anymore, so they need somebody to drive them to their activities.
No, yeah. How could a home care company position itself to become a true resource for a hospice social worker rather than just, here's another home care company I work with. What are maybe some things they could do to position themselves? We talked about for a skilled nursing facility, there's a handful of things they can do.
Well, hospice, we do have a meeting too. Every week we have a meeting to discuss all of our clients. So you can come in for that meeting, not to sit, but just to come in and present on that meeting. And you can do it, once a month. Come in just so they can be consistent with your phase.
Yeah.
And then we also have a social March is social worker month. Sometime we have a social worker and chaplain meeting, so you can also come to that as well. So there's different in and outs
That's
where
where
you
I
can.
met that's where I met you at, was at that
Yes,
one. The
yes,
social worker and chaplain. Yep.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I
So
didn't mean to
that's
cut you off. Go ahead.
no, no, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, that's where we met. Yep, that's where we met, and that's where you can get because all the social workers are in one room in all the Palm Beach County,
Mm,
starting from Tequesta to Boca, going on. So they're all there. So if you come and you present, and that's a familiar face that you're seeing, because I think the meeting is
yeah.
every 2 months that the meeting
Mm,
is there, but we also have each team has a meeting every week, and there's two social workers, maybe one social worker per team. So if you calculate it correctly, you'll actually go to all the meetings for the teams.
that's good. That's super helpful. Yeah, I think of it like a pod. You got the social worker, you got doctors, administrators, nurses, caregivers, chaplains. and that team is designed a certain zip code or area. They can probably handle up to 60 patients maybe, and this is just a particular hospice that we're talking about. And so there may be multiple teams out of that agency that you can ultimately work with, which have all different individuals inside of that. And so being a part of that weekly meeting is extremely important. And I think if you were to ask Wadney, I think the answer she's giving is one way to differentiate yourself is be a part of the entire team, not just me, right? I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like that's what you're saying. Come to the meeting, know the marketer, refer us patients. Let me feel like you're a part of this team and not just asking referrals from me. Would you say that's one way a home care agency can benefit and start kind of transitioning from just another vendor?
Yes, yes. Definitely attending the meetings. You'll be able to have more knowledge. And sometimes you, as the home health agency, you guys might have a client that needs to be put on hospice and still provide the services that you need. So it goes both ways too, to get to know the marketing person, the nursing admission nurse. So it's good to be a part of attending, because each zip code, we have 60 clients. Out of those 60 clients, maybe like, 15%, you never know until you build that relationship, build that rapport with the social workers, the chaplain, and the nurses.
So good. What is one thing you wish every home care agency knew about the unique rules of engagement while working inside of hospice? Something that maybe you've worked with a outside vendor, a home care agency, or something else, and they did something and you went, oh, they're on hospice. We do this, or here are some unique rules of engagement you should know about.
Working with hospice, I think the number one rule is to, as far as have empathy for the client, even though you see they're not where you think they should be, but have empathy for them. And also always call the chaplain or the social worker if you feel like they're getting depressed as well too, and not
Hmm.
calling the caregiver out of town, and which we could provide support, that emotional support that the client needs.
That's so good. That's so good. I love hospice. It's always providing comfort and support. It's actually one of the things that you said really aligns with the home care's vision as well. That's why I think home care and hospice just work so well together. But it's funny that you say, really you focus on the companion side of things. Like that's the tools that you offer in a social worker and a chaplain. And we have the luxury of being in the home and seeing these things and utilizing the benefits that are available to them now that they're on hospice is probably something that doesn't happen often. And so I think that's awesome, awesome advice. So from your perspective, just overall looking back, as a discharge planner and as a hospice social worker, and even the other things that you've done in the healthcare industry, what does it look like to be a great partner? Like, what's just one thing that you'd say, this is what it looks like to be a great partner?
Um, clear communication.
Hmm.
I can say that enough about clear communication, because sometimes the communication does somebody sometimes it drops the ball. So if you have a clear communication and loyalty and consistency, I think that makes you a great partner.
And one of the things is, okay, you get a referral, you probably like to know, hey, what happened with that, right? Hey, I sent you Susie. How did that go? What's going on? Is she still receiving care? Do they like the caregiver? That's a part of that great communication. That's a call. That's an opportunity for us to come visit you, continue to develop the relationship. And you like to know those things, don't you, as a referee?
Yes, yeah. Sometimes that's another thing too. Sometimes I refer a client to an agency. I never hear from the client. So what happened to Mercedes? Like,
Hmm.
is she still receiving care? What's going on? And sometimes if I discharge, because sometimes the aides are taking the client home. All right, did Mercedes make it home safe? Is she still receiving care? Does she need more care? Like, what's going on? Sometimes I do like to know. And there's a way we can enter the notes in about a client, even though they've been discharged. I'm still the plan of care for them. So I would like to know what happened. But I don't like to get the calls from the clients who saying that, oh, she didn't come. She came and sat down. She didn't help me. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, I need to find another
Mm,
agency that's going to be able to
sure.
step up.
That's right. That's exactly. I mean, that's the point. It's an easy callback to another visit to continue to develop that relationship. Okay. Last question for you, Wadney. I appreciate your time. If you could give one piece of advice, unfiltered advice to a home care agency or marketer who's struggling to get their foot in the door and just get that face to face, what would it be?
To get your feet in the door, I feel like you would need to invest on making time for the social workers. Find out when the social workers have a meeting. Find out where they go to lunch. Sometimes all the social workers, especially at a hospital, they go to one destination for lunch, and they can hear lunch and you talking at the same time. Get to know the setting. So if it's at a hospital, nursing home, hospice, get to know the setting you're going to walk into and where does your agency going to be able to help the social worker.
Hmm.
So do your research on the where you're going before you just pop up, and always make an appointment. Bring a pen. I mean, bring some coffee if it's in the morning. It doesn't help. Coffee to get the client going.
I will say it's funny that you say that because I was just talking about it today where um, the talking point you use, let's say at an assisted living facility, isn't the same talking point you're going to use at a hospice or even at a skilled nursing facility. They have different pain points. They're looking for different things. At a skilled nursing facility, you want someone, yes, to receive good care, but you want readmissions to be driven down. You want a partner that understands the issues of readmissions and understands if there's still days left on their rehabilitation, they're not doing well, they don't need to go to the hospital, that they can go back to the skilled nursing facility for a fully paid Medicare bed. And it's a win-win where you guys get to bill Medicare and it's not a readmission. That talking point does not work for a hospital. That readmission does, but that particular one doesn't, or an assisted living facility or a hospice. And so I think that's really interesting that you bring up that point because we've just talked about it today, that understanding your setting, understanding the pain points, and then utilizing the service offerings that we can bring to be able to come alongside those and alleviate that stress is your advice to them, which I think is super good for you to bring to the table. Wadney, thank you so much for your time today and being willing to share all your insights. It's been an absolute pleasure to reconnect with you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hitting that like button really helps the channel grow. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a drop. We're here every other Wednesday at 8 a.m. sharp. See you in the next one. Inside Voice.